My name is Charles. I work for IUCN. I'm very pleased to be joining this symposium today, sharing and presenting the work of IUCN on nature-based solutions. More importantly, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me. And despite of not being able to join you physically, I'd like to wish you a very successful symposium. My talk will focus on nature-based solution for society challenges. And of course, I cannot start without talking about IUCN. I know most of you know about this gigantic organization. It's the world's largest environmental network. And what makes it unique is that IUCN has about, actually now, about more than 1,500 members. The number has been growing over time, and this includes state government agencies, but also non-government organization, indigenous people organization, and quite recently, the World Congress in Marseille also adopted the new category of what we call subnational membership, which includes cities and regions across the globe. Also the organization has another structure which includes commissions. Today we talk about more than 15,000 actually experts in 6 commissions who works together with the secretariat, the members, to deliver the union mission of safeguarding and protecting nature as well. And of course, back to nature-based solution, I think it has been a journey. It has been a journey that I think it is still a journey. We are still on the move. The last 12 years ago, we were still thinking about nature-based solution as a concept. And this evolved over time. But key milestones throughout the last 10, 12 years or so includes, of course, the very first time IUCN launched a nature-based solution program as one of its 3 core programs globally. And this catalyzed quite a lot of interest across the globe, but also within the union to dive deeper understanding in this topic of nature-based solution. And respectively, in 2016, that was the very first time the formal definition was adopted by the IUCN World Conservation Congress in Hawaii, where members, of course, adopted this resolution to approve this definition. And that also enlightened a number of other things afterwards, including the EU immediately launching the Horizon 2020, which was aiming to research, understand more this topic of nature-based solution, and continuously more global uptake and interest led to IUCN being the secretariat being mandated and commissions to develop the IUCN global standard for nature-based solution. And this was again adopted by the council and operationalized by IUCN in 2020. And that led to another creating a huge momentum globally, which was then uptaken by the UN, including the UNEA 5.2 resolution, which approved and endorsed the nature-based solution definition based on IUCN definition, which was again approved by the members in 2016. And quite recently, considering the global demand, IUCN launched the Nature-Based Solution Management Group, which basically is entrusted to lead the organization's effort in catalyzing, influencing, and implementing the nature-based solution globally. And of course, a nature-based solution built on decades of work. Many years ago, you may remember a number of approaches and concepts that were quite being implemented and are still implemented. This includes ecosystem restoration approaches, and we can talk about forest landscape restoration as one of them. Issue-specific ecosystem-related concepts such as ecosystem-based adaptation, focusing on climate adaptation mostly, ecosystem-based management, ecosystem disaster risk reduction, to name a few, but also more infrastructure-related concepts such as green infrastructure, natural infrastructure, ecosystem-based management, ecosystem protection approaches, etc. These all together over the years through the definition of nature-based solution, we look at NBS as a kind of umbrella term covering a multitude of solutions, which includes the ones I just mentioned. And of course, the potential of nature-based solution is very significant to address society challenges. It's not just one challenge, but also it's a multiple challenges, but also creating multiple benefits to people, to nature, to our biodiversity, to climate, etc. And some of the challenges I can just mention, and we will all relate to this as we talk about the nature-based solution, includes climate change adaptation and mitigation. Indeed, nature-based solutions have a huge potential to address climate change adaptation issues, but also contribute significantly to mitigation. I think we talk about 30% of potential of climate mitigation if we embrace globally a nature-based solution at scale in its entirety. You can talk about disaster risk reduction. We have been seeing a lot of uptake of nature-based solution across the coastal line, especially addressing issues of sea rise, but also other flooding issues that creates and cause disaster. We know recent cases in Southeast Asia, just to name a few, but also East Africa, even in Europe, from Belgium to Germany to the Netherlands. We saw quite recently terrible disasters, and we do think nature-based solution can play a huge role in that. But also beyond that, because economic development, I mean, it's also how we look at other economic drivers. Nature plays a huge role in catalyzing economic growth. Water security, food security, and human health, and this is in particularly recent cases of COVID. We know how much nature was the healer, was the medicine for many people. That was the only refuge people could have, not in the house. We couldn't confine ourselves inside the house. But nature was still the only place where you can go and still feel healthy. We also, through a study that involved IUCN, studied that find that more than 170 billion estimated growth benefits in ecosystem service from nature-based solution, especially if we focus on climate, but also more than 37%, as I mentioned earlier, amounts of climate mitigation potential can be found in nature-based solution. And the UNEA 5, as I had mentioned earlier, have already defined nature-based solution. And this definition is exactly what gives legitimacy to this concept. And more importantly, it builds on that decade of work that have been already happening. But a couple of keywords here. I think nature-based solutions are actions. You can easily relate to what is happening across from different terrestrial ecosystems to freshwater conservation, to marine, to terrestrial systems, forest, agricultural lands. So this whole ecosystem type of investments that aim to conserve, to restore, to sustainably use and manage natural modified terrestrial, freshwater, coastal and marine ecosystems, but more importantly, to address a particular society challenges, whether social, economic, or environmental, effectively and adaptively, while simultaneously providing human well-being. I think these are core words in this definition as we look at it. So as I said earlier, it's an umbrella term which brings together different ecosystem-based approaches, from protection to issue-specific or landscape-specific to infrastructure, to restoration, to management, and still creates a huge human well-being and biodiversity benefits. Again, I think as the definition got endorsed by the UN, we saw a huge demand to scale up nature-based solution. And I think this demand is still increasing with the recent inclusion of nature-based solution across all the Rio Convention and multilateral environmental agreements, such as the Ramsar, but also within the SDGs at national level, the national determined contribution. The NBSAP are quite widely now using and exploring integration of nature-based solutions. But also we see now nature-based solution being uptaken by investors from across different landscapes and financing landscapes, different instruments. They are really relying on nature-based solution as part of climate adaptation, climate mitigation, but also achieving other sustainable development goals, as I mentioned. Again, this global uptake was also a kind of way to give signal to the globe that we need to accelerate implementation of nature-based solution. Myself, I was very privileged to be part of some of these conversations globally, from Abidjan in 2022 to Marrakesh last year, to also Canada. And integration of nature-based solution within these global Rio conventions was basically a core to action, which I think we will be diving into in a minute. I mentioned that earlier. Nature-based solutions have potential to catalyze actions and help us accelerate sustainable development goals. Without doubt, all of these goals that we can talk about from 1 to 17, nature-based solutions have a huge role to play there. You can talk about no poverty. I think we saw that already. Nature-based solution contributes significantly to poverty reduction. Natural capital is a huge contribution to poverty reduction and alleviation across the continent and the globe in general. But also, if you talk about issue-specific goals, water, food, hunger, climate change, and others, they all relate to nature-based solutions. And I believe we do have another opportunity to look at the sustainable development goals using nature-based solution framework as a way to really catalyze this sustainability, that no harm, that integrated approach of looking at development. But what are we talking about? Indeed, this is a good question everyone could be asking themselves. What are nature-based solutions actually? And what is their benefits? The NBS have prime potential to help address society challenges. I think I mentioned this mostly, but also provide long-term environmental, social, and economic benefits, from adaptation to creating green jobs, to community resilience, to health benefits, to clean air, to disaster risk reduction, to ecosystem integrity for biodiversity, and others. So these are the kind of benefits, but also a couple of examples just on NBS application. You can talk about protection or restoration of a coastal ecosystem. And this is, of course, the case for many coastal countries, more island states, which most often are also presenting major risk of flooding, of sea level rise, which creates a lot of disaster. So protection or restoration of coastal ecosystems. You can talk about wetlands. Wetlands present a huge potential for nature-based solution to provide water storage, flood protection, but also food production. You can talk about urban green and blue spaces, but also sustainable management of our farmland and rangelands also present a huge potential for nature-based solution. As we speak about nature-based solution uptake globally, and you can see on the screen here, just tried to show how many institutions and countries globally have already developed strategies, national action plans on nature-based solution. And from all the countries and that I put there, even those that I didn't, from Multilateral Development Bank to big companies in the energy industry, to the World Bank itself, to the Inter-American Development Bank. So they are looking at nature-based solution as a huge potential to increase resilience of investment. And this probably comes with a risk. And this is the risk that globally people are worried about. Does that mean also nature-based solution can present another way to misuse the concept, to greenwash, So we need to think about that as we talk about nature-based solution and potentially how do we scale up that. And one of the way to really stop misuse and minimize risks of greenwashing is to apply the global standard and criteria of nature-based solutions. IUCN have already been ahead of the game and have developed and published in 2020 a globally negotiated with our members, all of them, including the country, state members, and non-government members, have really hugely been involved in the design and the development of these standards. And the standards builds on a kind of 8 core principles, which also transferred from the ecosystem-based approaches that was launched many years ago by the CBD, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. And this is form and inspire the criteria, the standards that nature-based solution have already launched. And this is, as I said, it was really a facilitative standard for design, verification, and scaling up nature-based solution, what we call integrity nature-based solution. It has 8 criteria and 28 indicators. It's based on knowledge, co-creation, from conservation science to social science to development science to the economics, but also the traditional knowledge of indigenous people have been hugely used in this conversation. And as I say, the 8 criteria, they are all very adaptive to be implemented across different sectors, but also across different level. It can be at national, at regional, but also at subnational landscape level. So there is this big opportunity of applying this standard. Yeah, some of the examples of projects that applied the standards. This is just the UK Maid Mary in Sussex project. Most of people knows this. It's a coastal ecosystem which was facing mostly flooding and overwashing. So the project that was implemented here was aiming to protect more than 300 homes, road infrastructure, and wastewater treatment plants, and boom in local tourism and recreation, which saw more than 22,000 visitors per year. And this is exactly the project which applied these standards to assess its potential in its nature-based solution. And this is just to show how the standards is applied. So you have also, I've seen, developed what we call a self-assessment tool, which is widely available and can be used by different practitioners, different developers of investments, to assess their projects, if it's really a nature-based solution or not. And this is the results of the Maid Mary project that I mentioned already, how it is potentially nature-based solution across all the 8 criteria, from society challenges, being able to be designed at scale, biodiversity net gain, economic feasibility, inclusive governance. This includes also the consultation with local communities, indigenous people, balancing the trade-offs, adaptive management, and sustainability, as well as mainstreaming. So this is just an example of how you apply these standards. Again, IUCN recently launched a global ambitious program, which we call all partners to join, including our members, which is called ENACT, Enhancing Nature-Based Solution for an Accelerated Climate Transformation. And the program is widely aiming to enhance protection and resilience of at least 1 billion vulnerable people, but also up to 2.4 billion hectares of healthy natural ecosystems secured through protection, restoration and management, and then will significantly increase global mitigation efforts through protecting, conserving, and storing carbon-rich terrestrial and freshwater and marine ecosystems. So we really call partners to join, and this is online. You can put ENACT, everything will come in. There's even a form for countries and non-government organization, even the community organization can join. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, IUCN launched the Nature-Based Solution Global Management Hub, which aims to support global efforts in really catalyzing, upscaling nature-based solution, and more importantly, high integrity nature-based solutions as the core to do that arise. And then our model at the hub level, our approach of delivery, we look at how do you develop nature-based solutions, so the tools, the approaches required to nurture the uptake of NBS, but also build the capacity of our partners, our developers. We look at the design itself, supporting, influencing, and shaping the technical of efficiency and effective of NBS intervention. And then we really work on nature-based solution acceleration, which mostly includes providing political impetus, technical expertise, but also working on financial instruments that can help uptaking nature-based solutions. And this is a way, again, to say IUCN remains readily available to work with partners in moving nature-based solution forward. Yeah, just a couple of messages I close. Nature-based solution is already an established concept. I think it just needs to be mainstreamed across policy domains, across all areas of application, if you want really to benefit from this concept as we deal with nature, but also climate and biodiversity disasters. The global standard for nature-based solution is a good tool, is a go-to tool to benchmark and assess NBS to facilitate convergence, but also comparability. This responds to questions, what is nature-based solution and what is it not? But also there's an international standard committee to enable national adaptation of the standards and improve data and information sharing. So the standard can be updated every 4 years as per the international standard guideline dictate. But also we do have opportunity to accelerate action for people, for climate, for biodiversity with the nature-based solution, especially now that it's integrated in the climate conventions, in the biodiversity convention, but also in other development plans. I'm here for any question, and thank you very much for having me.